Hello, hello. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Abuba. Thank you so much, Ali. Welcome back. Really missing you, bro. Thank you, Marwan. Thank you, Omar. Thank you, Noor. Thank you, Rudaina. All the students joining with the cam, Salma, Maggie. Thank you so much, Banan, Raneem, Abuba, Arwa, Luigi. How about the rest? I'm waiting for. Thank you, Ali. Thank you, Ahmed. I'm waiting for the rest to join with the cam, guys. And today we have. This is week. Yes, Mona. Thank you so much. I don't know exactly what Badr says, but anyway, sorry to hear that. Badr, hopefully, inshallah, you're going to have a very speedy recovery. And thank you, Rudy. Thank you, Salma. I'm waiting for the rest to join with the camp. Thank you, Mazen. Thank you so much, Omar. And today we have a very interesting session today. I'm very happy with the score, guys. That's impressive. The number of students who got like very good scores and improved themselves is astonishing, actually. Thank you so much for all your hard efforts. And before we dive into the test today, I just wanted to come in to acknowledge this incredible shift in this very relatively very short time, all right, in the course. So we are just in week 5, so we have just had 4 sessions and still hello Faris, yeah, thank you. And still we are alhamdulillah, we still have a couple of other more sessions to go. Still some students alhamdulillah are showing up, are doing their best. They are pushing their past limits, all right, and I want to tell them that I see what you're doing and I'm really really impressed. And for anyone else, look at your peers, guys. All right. If they can level up in this relatively short time, so can you. All right. You can do it. Actually, there is no hurdles in front of you that can prevent you from doing this. Excellence is not about being perfect on day one or even today, but it's being better than you were yesterday. So please go and do it. And congratulations, guys, to those who made that leap. Your hard work is the reason we're gonna make it faster today. So I don't think we're gonna have like 3 hour session as usual. And actually, I want to say to those who are lagging that the gap is not a difference between being good or great. It is just or talent. It is just extra effort you are putting toward your studying, and of course you're gonna make it. But you need to promise yourself sort of lag. No, I don't think that happens with Moodle. Maybe with a Canvas, but with Moodle, no. Yeah, it takes some time to refresh, but it should take you back to the to where you stopped. Yeah, Faris. Anyway, maybe it's your internet. All right. Anyway, let's get started without much further ado. Let's do question number 1. Some of the questions today are in the 90%. Others are in the 50. Not too many, 50%. But still, we have problems with though. Still, we have problem with the what we call the punctuation, as I always say. So please concentrate because next session or next test is going to be a bit harder. So let's move on to question number 1. And for question number 1, as usual, what we have is just a tense question in here. Why we say it's a tense question? Because what we have here is present progressive. So we have 4 different tenses, 4 different verbs. All right. Where's is present simple. Yes, I know, Ali. Will, where is future, and war is past. And for this type of question, if you have a tense, and this tense question has a time reference in the, yeah, this one is 90%, 92%. All right, so it's pretty easy. Why it's easy? Because actually the time reference here is 1832, so it's in the past for sure. And I'm gonna start from the capital letter for this performance. She, Akid, if we're talking about something in the 1832, and the whole passage is in the past, so I have to stick to the past. She wore, and the only past tense I have here is war. I don't have had worn, all right, or even past progressive. No, she wore the special tight fitting. And of course, we all know, or we should know, that we're all right, wore, worn. So, and of course, the present participle is wearing. So we need to memorize طبعا the list of the irregular verbs. If we don't know that war is the past of where, that's a shame. That's a shame. Any question regarding number one? So it's in the past tense. So I have to stick to the past. Any questions? Shall I move forward? Let me know if you have any. And yeah, alrighty, let's move on. Question number two, and this one is 82%. All right, 87%. And this is the question. This is the question about punctuation. So I need to start reading from the capital letter of the blank, and of course I need to consider the structure of the sentence, subject, verb, and subject, verb, because it might be run on, as we can see here. In his 1870 novel, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, I don't care about the prepositive phrase starting the sentence, but what I care is about the subject here, Jules Verne. Jules vividly depicted, so I have a subject, I have a verb, so I have a sentence. Jules Verne vividly depicted an underwater vessel called or vessel called blank, then called the Nautilus. So I'm gonna read along with A as usual. So yeah. Thank you, Ali. I'm gonna read along with A as usual. I'm not gonna read B or C. I'm not sure. Maybe A is the right answer. And Verne's, we have a period, and Verne's fictional vessel, subject, inspired, verb. So I have another sentence. So independent. Yes, thank you, Faris. Thank you, Sarah. Independent. So the only way I can do here, according to the choices I have, is A, where we separate two independent clauses by a period. And of course, we talked about the 6 ways. All right. So this is the first one: independent, period, independent. And this independent fictional vessel inspired inventor Simon Lake, who obtained whatever employing to take control. Of course, you don't have that to continue reading. You for sure know that, yes, since I have already an independent before before Nautilus, and another independent after the period. So there is no need to read till the end. What we have is a run-on question. So we need to correct run-on the way we learn. Yes, the way we do that. And the rest, for sure, Abanan, thank you so much. The rest are just run-on. So you can't have two independent clauses not separated by a period or semicolon or colon when the second explains the first. All of these are wrong, or semicolon conjunctive adverb. You can't have such thing. This is the only correct option that we should have, and all of these are just run on. Any question? That's why you need to examine the structure of the sentence to find out the subject and the verb, to analyze the sentence structure while you are doing any punctuation question, and you don't have to read everything just from the capital letter of the blank up to the period of the blank. Any question? حبيبة ماجي سلمى ملك أروى مريم مازن مرام الشباب اللي قافلين الكاميرات بعد إذنكم يا شباب ده camera is a must. Thank you so much. Question number 3 would include. So this is punctuation from the choice. I can say that this is a punctuation question. However, I have 3 verbs, verb, and 1 verbal. This doesn't mean that the odd is always all right, Yajana. So please, if you can buy one and attach it with a USB or something, that would be great. So here we have 3 verbs. Would include is past, include is present, included is another verb in the past, and including is the only verbal I have. And included can be verbal as well, depending on what it modifies, or the noun that comes before it, or the subject. All right. So here we have the double verb thing. Thank you so much. Here we have another question of double verb. We have this plenty of double verb questions in the recent tests, like June, May, March, and of course the coming ones as well. So I'm going to start reading from the capital letter of the blank only. I don't care about all of that. Don't waste your time, since this is the punctuation question. So we need to start reading from these, the word these. So these extensive changes, changes is a subject, would include is a verb. So for me, I'm going to read with A as usual. So for me, I have a subject and a verb, and I then have to continue reading till the end. Yes, to continue reading till the end. And of course, yes, B is always wrong. You can't separate the subject from the verb by just a single punctuation. So would include the addition of hundreds of new poems, the removal. So we have a list in here, the hundreds of new poems, the removal of some existing ones, and the insertion of prefatory material reflected the poet's evolving literary perspective. So the changes would include and then reflected. What I have here is subject changes, all right? I also have verb, which is would include, whether by it's would include or included, all right, in letter C, all right? And also, not only that, I have another verb here, اللي هو هيبقى كلمة reflected. So the changes would include and then reflected. However, these two verbs are not joined by any of the coordinating conjunction. What we have is just subject and then verb and then verb. So what comes in between the verb and the other verb is just modifiers. Just modifiers, just to to distract you, all right? To distract you. That's how it's meant to be, and that's how they track you, to trip you. Subject plus verb plus modifier plus another verb for the same subject. So we can't have two verbs for the same subject without a conjunction joining them. We always do that. We always say that this is wrong. This is what we call double verb. So I'm looking for the one that doesn't have this double verb. The only one that doesn't have a double verb is the including one. So the correct answer would be subject and then including verbal, all right, and then the verb in this case. And actually, by the way, the word including, don't think that including is a participial phrase. Including is a preposition, all right? It is like such as, ما ننساش. Thank you, Faris. It is including is a preposition. Again, we can call it modifier. Anyway, it's a modifier because it modifies the changes. So the changes is a noun, can be modified by a preposition because a preposition can act as an adjective, an adverb, and of course, it modifies here the noun, so it acts as an adjective. So the changes reflected, that's the thing that changes, all right? Reflected. And in this case, the only answer is D. Otherwise, A, B, and C will be double verb. And the percentage is 75%. All right, not bad. Like, still, we're looking for more improvement for this type of question, because this is a must-have question, a must-have type of answer or test or question in the test. Any question regarding number 3? Shall I move on to 4? Shall I move on to 4? Faris, Malak, Luigi, Shabab, Dania, Hisham, Mazen. Question number 4. So we have another punctuation question. So I'm starting from the capital letter of the blank, which is writers. ماليش دعوة بكل الكلام ده. Writers of the other literary forms. And writers, of course, is the subject. Why I'm doing that, I need to analyze the sentence structure. So question number 4 is 84%, by the way. All right, 84%. Very good for this. And writers, and why writers is the subject. دايما بقول the noun that comes, or the pronoun that comes before the preposition starting a sentence, always the subject. So writers is the subject, and then a preposition phrase acting as an adjective, like the previous one, including modifying here the writers, such as poetry and drama. Another modifier, I don't care. Are lesser writers, very good. Are, so we have a subject and a verb. So for we have a full sentence. Writers are less likely to be recognized beyond their nation's borders, but many are still well known. So we have, yes, up to well known is complete thought. All right, it's complete thought. So Kulsi Lamako, for example, is a celebrator. So we have Kulsi as subject, and for example, of course, is the conjunction, and is a celebrated playwright. So we have a verb. So the structure of this whole sentence is 2 independent clauses joined by comma but, and then another independent acting as answering the question who, or you can say, June, March. I don't remember, but maybe this is June. Yes, a colon for explanation. So 2 independent clauses. I'm going to use the colon for explanation. I believe this is June. This specific example is from June. Faris. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But many are still well known. وأنا بقول how. Kulsi Lamako, for example, is a celebrated playwright. And when we use an example, this example is used as an illustration or explanation. So in this case, when the second sentence explains the first, when the second explains the first, we usually use colon to modify, all right? So when the second explains the first, all right, we use a colon. And if there is no explanation, if there is no why, if there is no how, never ever use a colon. Always use a semicolon or period. All right. Yes, thank you so much. Of course, A will be a run-on because we have another. Bardo C is run-on, fused. D is run-on. So the whole thing is run-on, and the only answer is B. So we have a couple of ways to correcting run-on. One of them is period. The other is semicolon. The next is semicolon conjunctive adverb comma, and then this one when the colon is used. And of course, we all know that and preceded by a comma will be correct. All right, type. I don't understand what. Oh yeah, this is repeated for sure. I don't understand what, Ahmed. What do you mean by don't understand the question? The whole thing we have. How is it be good? Good, no worries. Writers is a subject. Are verb. So if I say writers are less likely to be recognized, this is a complete thought. And then we have a comma but many is another subject. Are is another verb. So we have many are. So the structure of the sentence goes like that: independent, all right, comma bot, and comma bot or comma fanboys joins to independent clauses. That's correct. And then we have a blank in here اللي هي known يعني اللي هي the rest of sentence that bot ends with known. And then we have another subject called C, for example, is celebrated. So we have another independent here, Maas. All right. So we have independent joined by bot, comma bot, joined by another independent. This part is correct. We don't have any issue with that. However, we still have a loose sentence, a loose independent joined with the previous one, or joined with all the sentence with nothing. With nothing. If you look at A, there is nothing here between known and Kul America, for example. All right. And if you look at C, there is and, but in order to use and to join two independent clauses, there must be a comma, like we did in but. And for sure in D, there is just a comma, and the comma cannot separate two independent clauses. So what we call this is run on. All right. This is run on. So the only way to correct, thank you. So one of the ways to correct, and of course, this is the only way we have, the colon. The only way to use is a colon or a semicolon, but when there is an explanation, when the second sentence explains the first, so a colon is preferred over the semicolon for sure. All righty. Yes, we need to revise the basics, all right, just to be ready. Anyway, question number 5. Any question regarding number 4? It was 84. Hopefully, I said that. And the next one is 66%. Again, if you look at that, what we do in writing is we look at the choices first to understand what type of question we have in hand. So resulting is verbal because it's not a verb. Had resulted is verb. Resulted is verb. Result is verb. So we have 3 verbs, all right, and 1 verbal. This doesn't mean that the other is always right. All right. That's just means that I need to start reading from the capital letter of the blank. تخيل الناس اللي بتسمعش الكلام بتضيع وقت قد ايه. The powerful blast resulting. I'm gonna read with A. The powerful blast, and I know that blast is a subject, right? The blast is like the what we call like explosion. Resulting from, so resulting is verbal. I know that verbal is the modifier, so we don't have a verb right now. If there is no verb till the end of the sentence, A will make it a fragment. But actually, as Kinsey and Faris has just mentioned, we have another verb in the sentence, all right? We have a verb in the sentence, not another. So resulting from the collapse of the start core under the force of its own gravity, ejected, and ejected is a verb. So since I have the subject blast and I have the verb ejected. So there is no need whatsoever to include any other verbs because the result will be double verb. All right, again, double verb. So to correct that, subject, blast, modifier, resulting, verbal, all right, resulting, and then ejected is the verb. Unless these 2 verbs, they are resulted and ejected, are joined with one of the fanboys like bought, yet, nor, or. Yes, we can't have this structure. All right. Why not say ما هو resulted is a verb. All right, Sarah. Resulted is a verb. We will have blast resulted from. The blast can result from. Yes, the explosion can result. Resulted is not verbal. Resulted is a verb in this case because you have to ask yourself, can the blast do the action? Can the blast result from? Yes, we say that the blast resulted from the collapse. زي ما نقول كده the fire resulted from yeah the drone مش كده strike. So resulted is a verb in here. And if I have resulted and then ejected, in this case, I'm going to have two verbs. And this structure is wrong. I can't have two verbs running after one another without conjunction joining them like but, yet, or nor. ما ينفعش يكون عندي محمد مثلا plays football وبعد شويه يقوم قايل listens to music. This is unacceptable in English. We don't have such thing. All right. Hopefully it's clear. And if it's not, let me know. So the answer here is A, again, double verb. خلاص كده? No worries. Let's move forward. And today we are moving faster than usual, as I told you. Yeah, that's how it goes usually. Always, Yani, when it comes to revision classes. The very first 4 or 3 sessions are very long, overwhelming. We write every single thing. Alhamdulillah, we are moving fast, and because of you, because of your hard work during the past month. Thank you so much. Right. That is aiming, that aiming, that aim, that has aimed. And here we have a question that has been recycled for a lot of time, been recycled for many tests. And that's why I always say we do. Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. That's why. Very good. Thank you, Faris. Faris يقعد يقول لي مستر أنا نسيت أنا نسيت السات وهو ما شاء الله فاكر كل حاجة. ربنا يحميه. All right. I'm not envious. All right. Anyway, so yes, the previous one, the Suzuki method كانت فيها الستراكشر ده اللي هو is an approach. طبعا هنا in this case, if you choose or if there is in the answer in the passage, the whole answer will be different, will be totally different. And that's why we should not memorize writing answers. We should not memorize writing answers, especially the conventions of grammar. All right, maybe the transitions, maybe the note taken sometimes, but not with the command of the conventions of grammar. They change. Yes, Allah عليك يا ميجي. Thank you so much. The percentage here is not good. It's good. 80%, mashallah. The previous one was 66. This one is good. طيب. Let's analyze the sentence structure. And what we need just to read, it's all the sentence. Unfortunately, we have to read it all. The Suzuki method. So you need to analyze the sentence structure. ليه؟ لأن أنا عندي punctuation after all أهو وعندي aims وhas aimed. That aims is an adjective clause. That has aimed is another adjective clause. And by the way, this question is a mix of many things. All right. No second time. Is there second time? All right. No second time. It's not just 80%. It's 20. So look at that. What we have here is a mix of many different types of questions. We have punctuation first of all. صح? This is the punctuation question. That and then is. Can I separate the subject from the verb? that from its verb is aiming by a punctuation? No. وهنا عندي برضه punctuation that وبعد كده aiming, and in this case that emphasizes. So we have a fragment in this case if we choose B, by the way, and we will say what the right answer is, but we have to consider whether it's C or D, and C and D are the same except for the tenses. صح? They are tense. Thank you, Banan. That aims is present simple, and has aimed is present also, but perfect. So it's not a matter of that aim plural and has aimed مثلا singular. So it's not a matter of subject verb agreement. Both are for singular verbs, has and aims. The problem here is tense. So we have punctuation, we have fragment, and we have tense. And this one, I believe, is June. So they recycled it from previous tests. And now we have a question of multi types of questions in here: punctuation, fragment, and tense. طيب, what we need to do is just start analyzing the sentence structure, the Suzuki method, and the method is the subject for sure. An approach to music instruction. So an approach is an appositive phrase, for sure. It's an appositive phrase used as a modifier. And of course, if we start an appositive phrase with a comma, I have to end it with a comma, and the comma is a must because Suzuki is capital, is proper noun. So it must be followed by non-essential phrase or clause. So an approach to music instruction that is aiming. We can't have such thing. We can't have A at all. A is always wrong because that is aiming. Yes, that is aiming is an adjective clause. And that is the subject of the adjective clause. All right. And is aiming is the verb of the adjective clause. And of course, like any subject and verb, we cannot separate them by just one single punctuation. So that is aiming is wrong. So I'm going to go for B على طول. يعني اللي أنا هعمله إن أنا once I know that A is wrong, I don't continue reading the rest of the sentence. لا, على طول اعمل لي كده shift على طول على B. A is wrong I know. يبقى هتقوم قاري B على طول. خلاص؟ كل ده عشان توفر على نفسك الوقت. طيب. An approach to music instruction that aims up to now, this is correct. أو that, that. An approach to music instruction that aiming to teach. So I have that which starts an adjective clause. And this adjective clause must have a subject on its own and a verb on its own. It has the subject of its own, which is that. Like followed by another participial phrase. Well, participial phrase, in order to use it this way, it has to start. It starts with a comma, so it has to end with a comma. And up to now, I don't have any verb for Suzuki method. And if there is any verb in the sentence, it will be restrained for that. معايا مركزين? If there is any verb in this sentence اللي هو emphasizes, خلاص هيبقى كده restricted to that. خلاص انتهت الجمله كده بقت fragment. If you choose B, it's gonna be a fragment. The Suzuki method, ركزوا معايا عشان ما اعيدش تاني. The Suzuki method is a subject. An approach to music instruction that احنا خلاص عرفنا ان A is wrong. I'm gonna read B. That starts an adjective clause. بتعرف مين؟ بتعرف الميوزك instruction. ماشي. I will approach. حلو. Since I have that, and I know that this is an adjective clause or any type of clause, it must have a verb on its own and a subject on its own. And I'm gonna consider that is the subject of the adjective clause. Right. Any verb that comes later after the comma, like there must be a comma. I know that aiming is a participial phrase starting with a comma. It has to end with a comma. Any verb coming after this phrase اللي هو هيكون عندي هنا natural way children learn language emphasizes this verb. If you choose B, is the verb for the adjective clause. And in this case, if you continue reading, you will not find any verb for the Suzuki method. So B goes like that. Suzuki method is a subject. And then an adjective clause has its own subject اللي هي that, has its own verb اللي هي emphasizes right down after me. And then this subject has no verb. طب والverb بتاعه ما emphasizes ما عادش بتاعه خلاص. بقت الجملة fragment. Yes, that's why B, so B is a fragment, a subject without a verb. طب امال اختار ايه؟ ما عادش عندي هنا غير ان انا اقوم قايل ان ال aims دي I have to add a verb for aims. تمام حاضر. ماشي يا لوجي. I have to add a verb for aims. So for that, in order to have a subject and a verb for the adjective clause and keep the verb emphasizes اللي هو the verb of the Suzuki method. يبقى if I add a verb for that اللي هو the Suzuki هتبقى عاملة كده the Suzuki method. An approach modifier. That aims another modifier. That aims عادي جدا. An approach اللي هنا modifier. It has an approach اللي هو apostrophe phrase. That aims is an adjective clause. After the comma اللي هي دي شايفينها emphasizes ادي الverb بس خلاص. يبقى the Suzuki method emphasizes ادي subject وادي verb. كده correct. I don't have any problem. طيب Here I have two choices. One is C, one is D. Both are correct in terms of subject-verb agreement. That aims, well, that has aimed, and in this case, but I'm moving toward the tense problem or the tense shift. If I talk about facts, I don't use the present progressive, the present perfect. When we talk about fact, yes, thank you, Faris. When I talk about facts, yes, present tense is used, all right? Because yeah, the present tense is used, and this is why C is the right answer. That aims. But how could I tell that the Suzuki method must be used in this context of a fact? All right. So look at that. The Suzuki method is described as being an approach to music instruction that aims to teach music in the same natural way children learn language. The same natural way children learn, so naturally, so this is the fact, the same natural way, all right, emphasizes as well. Also, the method emphasizes, so it stands consistency too. Thank you so much. So it have to be consistent with emphasizes with the children learn, all right? And don't think about learned, because learned here is an adjective phrase, all right? Retaining and reviewing previously learned pieces. Learned here is an adjective phrase, talks about pieces of music learned. It's not learned in the past. Adjective اللي the past participle عادي خالص زيها زي أي participial phrase. All right, good. So here what we have again is the Suzuki method followed by a couple of modifiers, all right? And then the verb, so subject, modifier, modifier, verb, the structure we have in fragment. And the difference between C and D is that C, the present simple, write down after me, present simple is used for 5 major things. Number one, it describes, because we haven't talked about the present simple in more detail. Yeah, number one is facts, all right? Number two is habitual activities, something that happens every day or every week or whatever. Habitual activities in the present, طبعا. All right. Number three, it talks about historical past. We talked about that in the basics. Historical past, when we talk about something that happened in the past. Yes, present. Thank you. Historical present, something that happened in the past, but I want to describe it. And we do that when we even tell stories. Sometimes when we tell stories, native speakers tend to use the present simple, talking about something that happened to them in the past. So this is very natural. So historical present, you're describing something that happened in the past as if it were happening right now, in order to keep the audience engaged and to make it vivid to their minds. Also, we use it with something called literary present. Yes, literary present. What is literary present? We use when we summarize piece of literature. Yeah, thank you, Ali. When we summarize, مثلا, a novel like The Dressmaker or The Brothers Karamazov by مثلا Fyodor Dostoevsky, we will talk about the brothers as if they were like on the stage right now, and they are performing the play, sorry, the novel. So because it's literary and it's there and the book is there, so we can read it every day. So yes, it came a sad question before. Thank you, Ali. And also, yes, thank you, Banan. When we talk about future, sometimes we use some verbs to describe future. So we use the present simple to describe future. The flight arrives at 7 p.m. tonight. So I'm not saying will arrive, I can say arrives. So when my father comes, I will tell him. So when my father comes in the future, I will tell him. So yes, this is the future. So this is the present simple. And present simple, we add an S to the singular subject, and we don't add an S. We add an S to the verb when it is singular, and we don't add an S to the verb when it is plural. This is the present simple, like we teach, all right, we drink, I eat, he sleeps. That's it. This is the present simple. The present perfect is different. We talk about literary present. The literary present is when you summarize, write down after me, when you summarize literature, literary text. When you summarize a literary text, خلاص, you are summarizing مثلا Macbeth. You are summarizing Romeo and Juliet. You would say that Romeo meets, not met, meets Juliet. I know. All right. So they meet each other, they fall in love, but their parents refuse the marriage because of the feud or the feudal foe that they have. And they decide to flee and run away. So always you are using the present simple as if it were real happening right now. This is the literary present. Anyway, the present perfect talks about something that, no worries, something that started in the past up to the time of speaking. This is the present perfect. And when it comes as an example, we're going to describe it or explain it in more detail. We narrow. I just want to narrow things down to you. I don't want to flush you with lots of heaps of information. So yes, we need the present simple here because the present simple talks about fact, and the Suzuki method is a fact. It uses the same technique, the natural way children learn languages in general, as a matter of fact. So yeah, it's a present simple. So this question is not pure tense, neither is it a punctuation or a fragment. It is a combination of three different questions: punctuation, fragment, and tense. And this is something the SAT has started to implement and use. All right. The present perfect talks about the first, talks about something that happened in the past up to the time of speaking and in a duration of time, but it should be up to a time of speaking. So something that started in the past and up to now. Like the one, of course, you remember the play by Anton Chekhov about the man is called Sobrakov, and Vanya used to tell him, for 25 years, I've been running the state for you and have been giving you all the profits, and you haven't ever given me a single word of thanks. Not back then, not now. ده معناها for 25 years he has been honest. مش كده? You recall that? Yes, he has been honest toward Sabrovsky or whatever, and yeah, and he has never given him a word of thanks. And of course, he called even the wage he would receive as being like bigger instance. So yes, so something that started in the past and up to the time of speaking, and should be duration, not specific point. That's the only difference between it and something that happened in the past. In happened in the past, معناها completed and done and done. خلاص, he worked here for 3 years. معناها he's not working anymore, but he has worked here for 3 years. معناها he is still working. Anyway, question number 7. That's the issue. That's the point I always say. The idea of go, shabab. We had it last week. We have it today. We're gonna have it next week. We always have it, and this is a pain in the neck question. Yes, although you promised that, or you affirmed me before that you mastered this question, Wise. I'm not sure how you have fared during this question today, and whether you answered it right or wrong. Just let me know. معاذ مأكد لي. Yes. So anyway, let's do it. This is a question that requires much of attention, and write down after me, شباب. Write down after me, please. تعالوا نشوف كده. What we're gonna read, it's just as simple as any punctuation question. So I'm not gonna read the whole passage. I'm just gonna read from the capital letter of the blank. All right. It seems like you forgot lots of things. You need to refresh. For this question, by the way, this is 43%. This is 43%. The previous one was 80. All right, this one is 43%. Hopefully, by the end of this course, we would have we will have more of a better score than this. So yeah, that's the type of question of though. Still, many students are not يعني mastering this question. Let's do it. تعالوا نشوف احنا محتاجين مننا ايه. احنا we had it last week. We have it today. فنركز بعد إذنكم. I always say that the word though مش عايز اقعد اكتب كل شوية. Though is like any subordinate conjunction. It starts a subordinate clause. It must be followed. If it starts the sentence, if though starts the sentence, يعني if I have it as an A, هنا A كده هي starting a new sentence. All right? If it starts a sentence, or if it comes after a period يعني زي دي كده capital letter we're starting a new sentence. This means that though here has nothing but one function which is a dependent clause. ملهاش أي function تاني غير إنها تكون a dependent clause. طالما هي starting the sentence. Though is not however. اوعى تفتكر ان though ساعات its meaning can be however وده بنستخدمه عادي. I don't like it though. I don't like it however. عادي. لكن if I start the sentence with though, it can't be anything else but a dependent clause. معناها ايه a dependent clause? If it starts a new sentence معناها I'm expecting after though, I'm expecting a subject, I'm expecting a verb, and it can be dropped. الاثنين يبقى dropping ويبقى عندنا حاجه اسمها elliptical construction. ارجعوا الادverb clause وبعد كده comma وبعد كده subject and verb وكده يبقى انا كده already عندي two clauses. One is dependent, another is independent, which is correct. طب لو انا ما عنديش الشكل ده، لو انا عندي though followed by a subject followed by a verb, all right, وسكت fragment. Thank you سمة. fragment على طول. Thank you بنان. على طول though subject وverb وperiod او semicolon غلط، مفيش كلام منه. خلاص. طيب though in between two commas like so. ايوه مفيش عندي مشكله، بس انا كده هتعامل معاها على انها however. لو انا though عندي between two commas يبقى ما عنديش اي شكل تاني او اي معنى تاني غير انها تكون هنا في الحاله دي however. طب معنى ايه however؟ معنى ايه however؟ when I use however between two commas يبقى كده معناها it is in the middle of the sentence. يبقى I don't like it though وكمل phrase بس. I don't like it though because it's boring. I don't like it though خلاص كأني بقول however مثلا because it's boring. ما عنديش مشكلة في دي خالص. ليه؟ I don't like it is independent, because it's boring is dependent, the structure correct, though is just like however because it comes in between two commas. يبقى لو جت في النص دي معناها كأنها however وتتعامل معاملة however. طيب however هنا لما احطها between two commas معناها it is in the middle of a sentence. طيب لو جت في الاخر برضو هتعامل معاها معاملة however. وفي الحالة دي برضو بس however اللي هي ايه؟ اللي هي I don't like it though, I don't like it however اللي هي بتربط two independent clauses اللي احنا عارفينها. بس في الحالة دي كده alright انا هقفل ببيريود او سيمي كولن عادي مفيش اي مشكله وفي عندي قبلها one sentence independent, one not two بس independent. وفي الحاله دي though هنا او however هنا joins its sentence with the previous one اللي هي first ودي second. يبقى احنا عرفنا كل الحالات. انا التاني مره اكتب though and why it's and how it's used. خلاص and how it's used. تمام كده. طيب تعالوا كده نشوف بقى الستراكشر اللي عندنا هنا ايه. يبقى احنا عرفنا though starting a new sentence معناها dependent clause and it must be followed by an independent. If it's in the middle set off by two commas معناها after though there shouldn't be a full sentence, otherwise it's run on. If it's at the end of the sentence it is preceded by a full sentence عادي لان هي برضو كانها however بالظبط. طيب لكن ما بستخدمهاش استخدام however. يعني ما ينفعش اقوم اعمل كده الشكل ده واعمل الشكل ده. لا دي starting a new sentence غلط. though doesn't work this way. though isn't however this way. ليه؟ لان though زي ما اتفقنا starting a new sentence is a dependent clause. لكن however starting a new sentence yes however can start a new sentence independent زي and عادي. طيب تعالوا كده نشوف هنقراها ازاي. I'm not gonna read the whole passage as we do in the however example because I don't have such problem with though. عارفين ان though is not however فانا مش هتعامل معاها معامله ان انا الله اصل كما مفيش. فمش هقراها كده. انا كل هقرا الستراكشر بتاع subject verb وران اون ولا مش ران اون، فراجمنت ولا ران اون، بس هذه الفكره كلها. في الغالب بتبقى ران اون. طيب تعالوا كده نقرا من اول economists. Economists subject have observed verb. So for me, I have a complete thought. Economists have observed that without the noun clause, there must be a subject, and they have observed something. They have observed what? What هنا معناها object. الobject now, الobject that is a noun or a pronoun. أنا عندي هنا noun, but it's not that the improvements. لا, that improvements يبقى معناها إن I have a subject and there must be a verb for the adjective for the noun clause. That improvements in efficiency often correlates. This verb correlate is the verb for this verb correlate is the verb for the subject improvement اللي هو اصلا the noun clause. صح؟ Yes. لان already I have economists have observed. Have observed what? Have observed that improvements noun clause. All right? I did it wrong, but I did it without you have to read. طيب. That improvements in efficiency often correlate negatively with resource conservation, and I'm gonna read with A included زي ما اتفقنا. وانا بالنسبه لي الجمله دي ما فيش فيها اي مشكله. Economists have observed that improvements in efficiency often correlate negatively with resource efficiency, with resource conservation, correct up to the semicolon. طيب semicolon though زي ما اتفقنا though starting a new sentence معناها it's a dependent clause. In order for this to be correct, there should be a dependent and then a comma and then an independent بعدها. اهي لازم الستراكشر ده. طيب what we have after though, do we have just a dependent comma independent the way I was expecting؟ ما لازم I have to expect. لا ما عنديش. امال اللي عندي ايه؟ though ايه؟ though efficiency gains دي subject بتاعت though. صح. lowering the cost ماشي ده modifier. may increase demand verb عندي هنا though followed by a subject followed by a verb to the extent that assumption ultimately arises. This doesn't mean that this is a new sentence. ده هنا a noun clause. The extent that, what extent, or that adjective clause modifying the extent, to the extent that resource consumption ultimately rises. This is another adjective clause, so it has a subject and a verb on its own. However, what we have in A is just though statement, though clause, اللي هي dependent clause, بس period. Dependent period. Can I have such structure? Semicolon. Dependent period? No, this is a fragment. يبقى A is definitely a fragment, and what I did should happen in a split second in your mind. مش كل اللي انا عملته ده، كل اللي انا عملته ده عشان اشرح لك. لكن هو وانت بتقرا economists have observed that improvements in efficiency often correlate negatively with resource conservation, though efficiency gains increase demand. في الحالة دي أنا كده عرفت إن though هنا starting a dependent clause with there is no another independent following it يبقى A is wrong. طيب letter B. Letter B says the rising tone. Thank you so much. Letter B says إن أنا استخدمت though هنا كأنها however. خلاص؟ كأنها however. طيب إيه اللي هيحصل؟ اللي هيحصل إن أنا هيبقى عندي run on. thank you Banan. Run on. ليه؟ أهو. Economists have observed subject and verb, and then though is like however in the middle of a sentence, not in the middle between two sentences. And if it were between two sentences, I would use however differently. I would add a semicolon before it. صح؟ أو semicolon حتى after it. لكن ما فيش الكلام ده. Though دي كده كأنها however the نص sentence. لكن what I have is not يعني a word in the middle of one sentence. لا, it's a word in the middle of two sentences. يعني ايه؟ يعني two independent clauses separated by just a comma. B is run on. اهي two independent clauses separated by just a comma. Let me just explain it again. اهي two independent clauses. ازاي اهو؟ though دي ولا كأنها موجودة. صح. Thank you علي. though ولا كأنها however transition عادي ولا كأنها موجودة. امال ايه اللي هيحصل؟ هيحصل ان يبقى عندي two economists subject have observed verb complete sentence independent. طيب B ولا كأن ذو دي موجودة. ايه اللي هيحصل؟ اللي هيحصل ان انا عندي efficiency gains subject modifier may increase verb. فبقى عندي two independent اللي هي B, two independent separated by just comma اللي هي comma بتاعت though، والذو دي ولا كأنها موجودة، دي مش and مثلا تربطهم لي ببعض، لا دي though دي احنا عارفين انها subordinate conjunction. ولو عملت C هيبقى عندي structure جميل اللي هو independent followed by a comma followed by a dependent clause. لكن the problem here is I don't have a contrasting transition, a contrasting relation. The meaning is different. يبقى grammatically correct. Letter C, what we call it this way, syntactically correct. Syntactically يعني إيه؟ يعني the structure of the sentence, the way the subject and verb are laid in the sentence is right. Subject, verb, complete thought, comma, dependent clause. حلوة. مش عندي أي مشكلة. All right? The students went to school though it was raining heavily. مش أي مشكلة. But here in this sentence there is no contrast. Actually, what happens is we have an explanation. We have an explanation. هو بيقول لك economists have observed that improvements in efficiency often correlate negatively with resource efficiency gains. With resource, conservation. كل ما يبقى في كل ما استخدم مواد قليله كل ما يحصل ايه؟ كل ما يحصل دروب في الكونزرفيشن. كل ما ازيد في عدم استخدام المواد كل ما يحصل دروب في الكونزرفيشن ايفورت، وعشان كده سماها نيجاتيف. فالجمله اللي بعدها بتشرح explain، وليتر دي اللي هي ليتر سي سوري though shows contrast. احنا كلنا عارفين ان though معناها despite what has been said. So there is no contrast to go for C. So the only answer for sure is D. إيه بقى D؟ عبارة عن two independent separated by the semicolon. عادي خالص. Two independent separated by the semicolon. وذو دي مجرد زيها كأنها حطيتها في آخر sentence 1 بتعمل كأنها بتقول however اللي هي بتعمل contrast between sentence 2 and sentence 1. عادي خالص. بالظبط. فلو حطيت برضو colon هتبقى برضو correct. خلاص كده. يبقى هنا في two يبقى D is the right answer because the sentence here is either a run-on or a fragment. Look at that. Look at the 43%. Very, very tricky question. مش عايزين كل مرة نقعد نشرح ذو بالطريقة دي، نقعد نص ساعة. أنا بالتالي بقالي نص ساعة بشرح في ذو، أكتر من نص ساعة بشرح في ذو. بس الأسبوع اللي فات برضو أخدنا نفس الوقت. أعتقد إن لا بالعكس يا علي. No. No. ليه مش غلط؟ لو انت it was similar to the one. alright. لان I can, yes. لان ممكن ان اعمل كده explanation يبقى sentence 1 دي explained by sentence 2 وsentence دي عباره عن dependent comma independent. الاندبندنت دي هي اللي شارحه. طب وذو لا ما بتعملش contrast. اللي انت قصدك عليه however هي اللي تبقى غلط. ما تجيش however after colon. alright. خلاص كده. طبعا though in day acts like however. عادي خالص. خلاص. اللي عايز C تاني. C is wrong ليه؟ C grammatically correct, syntactically correct, the structure of C correct, independent followed by أنا عايز أكتبها بس مش لاقي. Independent followed by a comma followed by the dependent اللي هي though. بس what is the relation when you start with though? What is the relation when you start a dependent clause with though? No worries, Judy. Thank you. What is the relation between the independent and the dependent? Contrast. حلو. Is there contrast؟ لا ده هي cause and effect. لأن the second sentence أصلا بتشرح. The second sentence explains. Alright? فهي مش contrast. But the second sentence explains how the relationship, the negative relationship works. فهي already this is not showing contrast. So yeah, thank you. So yes, it is correct grammatically, لكن semantically wrong. Semantically wrong. Semantic يعني meaning. Semantically wrong. خلاص. يبقى الستراكشر ده صح كجرامر. خلاص. بس لازم يكون برضو صح meaningfully. Alright. I went to school though I was sick. صح كده. ما هو صح though. مش كده. It shows contrast. All right. Thank you. All right. Let's move on to question number 8. This one is easy. Everyone has answered it right. يعني مش عارف أقول إيه 83% بس. The Atlantic Ocean is home to many seamounts underwater mountains that rise from the ocean floor. طبعا, since I have already one parenthesis on that side, so it must be on the other side. We can't have one. يعني مش عارف. This is unjustifiable. It should be 100%. You can't have, unless بقى يعني 20% of the students are not reading what they're doing. All right. This is just still question number 8. So there is no bots, nuts, or coconuts. ما فيش excuses. All right. ما فيش. يعني انت غلطت فيها يا علي. يخرب عقلك. يا شباب على فكرة في ناس يعني مش ممكن. شباب بتقفل 750 وعندهم مشاكل في 10 ماركس و20 ماركس. نركز. طيب. Question number 9 is one of the easiest. I can eliminate, as we did last week, we can eliminate 3 choices in here by just looking at the choices without reading the passage altogether. خالص ولا ليها أي لازمة الباسج. ليه؟ زي ما اتفقنا. Any noun followed by an apostrophe S or S apostrophe must be followed by a noun. But what we have is just a comma in A, so I'm going to eliminate. In D, I'm going to eliminate, all right? And in B as well. So A, B, and D. غلط. A, B, and D. من غير ما أبص على الباسج. C is the right answer directly in less than a second and move forward. ما تكملش. تمام؟ يبقى any noun followed by S apostrophe or apostrophe S. No noun following it, always wrong. Any noun that is plural noun, followed by another noun, always wrong in this type of question. خلاص لأن الnoun ده أصبح adjective. والadjective is not plural. Yes, so cross it على طول. يبقى احنا عملنا crossing ل 3 choices من غير ما نبص على الباسج ولا نقرا الكلام ده كله. Don't read. And this one is 90, I believe. 96, ما شاء الله. 96%. The next one is also a compound question. لا يا كنزي لا غلطانة خالص غلطانة تماما. طيب. Similarity based forecasting means that طبعا again resembling is verbal. Resemble verb, resembles verb, and has resembled verb. And as I told you, the hack I told you about, I don't want you to use it or overuse it. I'm gonna go for if I don't have time. Yes, if I don't have time, if I can't find where the subject is, I'm gonna go for the odd verb, not the verbal. In this case, is the plural one because here we have verb that is singular, verb that is singular, and verb that is plural. So I'm gonna go for the odd. This happens only if you don't have time to read or to answer, or if you can't figure out where the subject is, or the sentence in general. Similarity-based forecasting means making prediction about project schedules, resource needs, and costs based on past situations that closely, the past situations, closely, هنا that بقى refers to the past situations that closely resemble. So it's a subject, verb, agreement, and fragment as well, because if you choose A, it's going to be fragment. As I always say, any adjective clause or noun clause or adverb clause must have a verb and a subject on its own. So that here is the subject, and it agrees with situations, and situations is plural. So the verb of that should agree with what that modifies. That's what we always say. So since situation is plural, so I have to go for the plural verb. So here it is subject, verb, agreement. خلاص. Any question? All good so far? So this one is 82%. Right. The next one is question 11. Can you repeat that thing? Faris, if I have 3 verbs, like in here the structure is different. 3 verbs versus 1 verbal, like in the 3 verbs are not three tenses, are not three different tenses. امال ايه؟ لا, they are two singular and one plural, or two plural and one singular. في الحالة دي go for the odd. Go for the odd verb. خلاص? That agrees with the situation. That is an adjective clause. صح? And this that clause must have a subject on its own, اللي هو that, and the verb on its own. All right? This verb should agree with that. بس أنا ما أعرفش that دي إيه, singular or plural. ما هو أنا, in order to use a verb, this verb should match what that modifies. Whether بقى it is that, whether it's who, whether it's which. أي حاجة من دي. يبقى I have to know exactly what the relative pronoun modifies. خلاص, عشان أعرف الverb ده هيكون plural or singular. Situations is plural, so the verb must be plural. خلاص كده? Hopefully it's clear. Question number 11, which was, so I have, again, punctuation thing. So I start reading from the capital letter of the blank. While D is not a sentence, this is dependent, so it's a elliptical adverb clause. And we do that sometimes. We drop the subject and the verb for the adverb clause when the subject and the verb of the when the subject of the adverb clause is the same as that of the main clause, like the author here, Eleanor Sapia. So while being interviewed for the book Latina Authors and Their Muses, so this is dependent, ماليش دعوة بيها, comma, historical fiction author. This is the subject. Eleanor Parker Sibia revealed is the verb. Revealed her favorite book about the craft of writing. What is it? Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way. So ما تقوليش بقى هستخدم السيمي colon. What is it? بس كده على طول. We use the colon when you have this urge of asking, what is it? What is it? مين؟ ايه الكتاب اللي هي your favorite book ده؟ احط colon على طول. طب لو انا قلت semi colon fragment. ليه fragment? Because يا بنت اسكتي بقى. ده ايه ده؟ Why it's a fragment in B? Because I have an independent followed by a semicolon, followed by just a phrase. Julia Cameron's Artist's Way is just a noun phrase. Noun phrase. You can't have a noun phrase standing alone on its own. Yes, always wrong. Thank you, Kinsey. On its own, this is not a complete thought. This is not a subject and verb for us to have semicolon before it and period after it. This is fragment. And which was, we don't use a comma, we don't use a colon before which. What we use here, we use a comma, which was. صح, which, comma is correct, but we don't use, the conventional use of colon doesn't entail the use of which. We don't use it with which. خلاص? If we remove the colon and replace it with a comma, ayat. If we replace it with a comma, طبعا. And of course, it was will make it a run-on. So this question, again, is a compound question, complex one that includes incorrect punctuation with A, wrong punctuation, one that includes fragment as in B, one that includes a run-on as in D. So as you can see here, the SAT has upgraded the level or has started upgrading the level of the questions. Another one, again, the pronoun, the difference between that and which. Yeah, dependent clause, sure. All right. لا بس it doesn't cause a fragment if we replace the colon with a comma, which was عادي بتعرف البوك. All right, a book about the craft of writing. If we replace the colon with a comma, it would be correct. لكن no, a colon will make it طبعا, yeah, because we don't use a colon before which clause working as an adjective. All right, thank you. Right, the next one here is should be easy. 12 is 87%. The previous one was 88. I'm not sure if I wrote this down. 88. So this one is 87. This one is repeated, by the way, على فكرة. We answered that, I guess, in a previous course. Yes, Yeah, city that with an average somewhere with an average is a modifier because it's a prepositional phrase, and we are expecting a comma and then the subject and then the verb. So I don't care about that. Budapest is one European city. You can't say is one European city and stop. You have to say one European city. اللي هي يعني one European city. We don't use a comma before that. All right. Always, it's wrong. We use a comma before which. Yes, we use a comma before which, but here it's the difference between essential and non-essential. Essential versus non-essential clause. طبعا that is always essential and which is always non-essential. And that's why which is always preceded by a comma. Yes, that is always essential. Thank you, Luigi. Which is always non-essential. So we don't use A. A is always wrong, all right, unless the comma is part of an interruptive clause or phrase. يعني في two commas before that، مش بس اللي قبل city، لازم يكون في comma تانية عشان اقول ان that هنا it doesn't modify the one that comes in between the interruptive phrase or clause. It modifies the noun that comes before it. الكلام ده. And because we are talking about just one European city and we don't know what we're talking in this case about, so it has to be that, and we don't say in which and then comma. ما فيش حاجة اسمها كده city in which comma many travelers know. All right, we didn't say that. Many travelers recommend. We don't say in which recommend what. In order to say in which, actually you have to remove the comma. You have to say many travelers recommend the bosses or their bosses or talking to their people, but actually they recommend it. So we don't say in which this way. All right. So it doesn't sound like natural English. And of course, it's letter D is non-essential. And we can't say that because it's one European city and then you stop. And then especially from June to September, what do you mean by if you remove these two commas? What do you mean by especially from June is one European city, especially from June to September. So it has to have a meaning. So this meaning is needed. So it has to be B. So yeah, read it and find out, does it make sense if you read the sentence without it? Here it doesn't make sense. That's why it is that. Like, yeah, it sounds incorrect. Complex list, yes. This is the complex list. How could I tell that we have a complex list? We read from the capital letter of the blank as usual. And you will notice that there is either a semicolon before and at the end of the list, or there is a semicolon in the middle of the text itself. However, here they made it a bit different. There is no semicolon whatsoever before and. That's why the idea of upgrading the difficulty level 70%. I guess this is the first time, this is from June as well, in which we don't have, I'm not pretty sure, but we don't have a semicolon either in the text itself or semicolon before and in the text itself. So we need to read it carefully and examine it ourselves. All right. Oh. Carnegie Hall's digital timeline of African American music reflects the contributions of many prominent scholars of Black history and music, including is a preposition, and it can be preceded by a comma, like such as, but it's not right away followed by a comma or colon, as we said last week. Including Paul Austerlitz and Paul, because Paul is proper, so any information modifying Paul should be non-essential, and it should be set off by two commas, two dashes, two brackets, two parentheses. So it is not just one. We have Paul, we have Stephanie, all right, and as number 3, and we have Jeff, 2. So since we have 3 people, and these 3 people are modified by appositive phrases or adjective clauses or whatever, so you can't have them like so. You can't have 1, comma, and then modifier, comma, and then 2, comma, and then modifier, comma, and then and 3 modifier, period. This is gonna be very, very confusing, all right? And in order to correct or to avoid to remove the obscurity, especially if you're talking about cities, as I told you, like not cities names and capitals of unfamiliar places. So yes, using commas would be very confusing. And in this case, I have to make it clearer. So then the first noun is followed by a modifier, and the second is followed by another modifier, and the third is followed by another modifier. In this case, I have to separate this list by semicolon. Your job is to find where the semicolon should be placed. Where is the first item? Where is the second, the major item? Because you're separating the major items, all right? You can't put a semicolon in here between the noun and the modifier. No, between the noun and the modifier, just comma. So you have to place the semicolon exactly where it should lie in the sentence, separating the item from the major item. So you're separating Jeff from Patrick from Stephanie. All right. So that's how it works. This is what we call the complex list. All right. The complexes. I guess I explained it in detail in the very first session of this course. And as I said, this is maybe the first time they don't include semicolon inside the text, all right, or even before and. So you have to work it out yourself. And if you go through letter A, why not one? No, this is confusing. College and then Jeff. I can't do that. I can't have these two commas. And actually, even if it's acceptable for some writers, actually we don't have the comma. This is the major flaw of A. The major flaw for A is not just the lack of semicolon, but the major flaw for A is the lack of the comma between Jeff, the proper noun, and the modifier, because Jeff is a proper noun, and any information after a proper noun must be set off by two commas or two dashes. And here I said Jeff, Tom, Titan, all right, without separating its modifier, the apostrophe phrase, from Jeff by a comma. So this is the main problem with A. Bardo, I have a semicolon in here, both before Jeff and before Stephanie, which is quite good, but I don't have maybe Ali, because I tricked them. The answer should have been D, مش كده, but I placed it further away. It should have been B, but I placed it further away. Yeah, because most of the students would not think about the comma. They would think about the semicolon. They would look at the semicolon before Jeff and before and that's why they will forget all about the comma in between. And that's why I pushed the answer forward today, all right, further today. Yeah. So I'm just making it harder for you. I haven't changed anything but the order of the answers. The answer really was B in the original test. Like, I just push it forward into D. I know that many students wouldn't look at the comma here, and their main focus would be on the semicolon. However, the answer is letter B is one of the answers. So يعني هو السات حاططها مش أنا اللي عاملها. All right. So B is wrong because there is no comma. Letter C is wrong. You can't have comma and then semicolon, although the comma here is correct. And of course, it is D because the semicolon before Jeff, separating Jeff from Paul, and of course, the semicolon before Shannon or Stephanie, separating Stephanie from Jeff. And Jeff is set off or separated from the apostrophe phrase by the comma. This is needed, this is needed, this is needed. So the answer is D. خلاص. Why there? Why there? What do you mean by there? Why there اللي هو انا ولا انت قصدك ايه؟ Why there what? All right. طيب. No semicolon before. Yeah, thank you, Anan. طيب. لكن اللي بيسأل بيقول why there why there is a comma in the middle. There must be a Yusuf. There must be a comma. If I want to modify you, Yusuf Haytham. خلاص. Yusuf is a proper noun. صح? You agree with that? Yusuf is a proper noun. I want to say that Yusuf is a student مثلا at Al-Kira College. خلاص? A student at Al-Kira College. Yusuf, that is a proper noun. Any information modifying Yusuf is not essential. So there must be a comma. A comma or dash is a must. مش فيها كلام. alright يا سارة, thank you, no worries. مش كده؟ مفيش فيها كلام. A comma is a must or a dash is a must. Thank you. Apostrophe طبعا. Yes يعني. Thank you. Right. Question number 14, very, very tricky. Because يعني, students up to now, we talked about the essential, non-essential many times. The difference between the zero article and a and yes, you can see, but still they cannot apply this knowledge to many other things like names of مثلا animals. جت قبل كده. Lions, Shaka, and ما اعرفش تيموثي او حاجه زي كده. Lions. هي اسماء حيوانات, اسماء بني ادمين. لاينز دي كده تايتل, وكده شاكا وتيموثي ده essential. نفس الكلام. I'm not gonna read anything of that. I'm starting from the capital letter of the blank because this is a punctuation question. Hanseatic League member. City دي اللي هي التايتل بتاع روستك. زي ما بقول لك كده, دولة قطر, دولة مصر, مدينة دمياط. You can't separate. Is there, تاني, is there a or an before Hanseatic, يعني أنا قلت a Hanseatic League member? No. Or an مثلا an officially Hanseatic? No. طيب, what we have is zero article. Zero article before the city. So since there is zero article before the city, أو حتى ذا, لو دي أو دي, يبقى ده معناها إن this is essential. Essential. خلاص, يبقى the name of the city اللي هي the member Rostock is essential. The answer is D. No commas, no dashes. خلاص. وطبعا letter A is always wrong. Thank you, Luigi. لأن you have separated the subject from the verb was serendipitously located. Which serendipitous means like luckily, yes, auspiciously. Thank you, Faris. Located on the whatever river. خلاص كده, the Warno River. خلاص, يبقى no commas, nothing. طب beat كانت تبقى امتى؟ Hanseatic. شوفوا B تبقى correct امتى؟ Hanseatic League member. كما Rostock. جميل. كده بقى Rostock دي is non-essential. Not the subject, it's an appositive. Member هي اللي هنا في الحالة دي subject, والverb هو was. كأني بقول a city عادي, a country عادي خالص. لا يا منى, a proper noun can never be non-essential. ده لسه جايب لك example اهو. لو انا دلوقتي بقول a teacher, an English teacher, comma Mr. جندي او Mr. G زي ما بيحب ينادينا. An English teacher, Mr. G, is teaching us today. البروبر noun ده انا خليته non essential اهو. ليه؟ Because the title is preceded by a or an. Since it's preceded by a or an, so it's non essential. If I said English teacher محمد, خلاص بقى ما ينفعش, ده zero article. او the English teacher, خلاص يبقى محمد ده اسمه بقى essential. the او English without the teacher, خلاص كده يبقى Mr. G ده essential. يبقى ده non essential وده essential. لكن بقى I can refine what you said and say any information after a proper noun always non-essential. خلاص؟ طيب. No يا ملك, انت يا بنتي انت كل كورس تسأليني نفس السؤال. يعني مثلا his 1974 book, اقوم كده حاطط two commas. Is that your question? period. لو انت قصدك مثلا in يعني مثلا I met him in 19 اي حاجه 74. فانا هستخدم adjective clause when. صح كده؟ ماشي. period of. alright. حلو. خلاص. طبعا هنا ال adjective clause is non essential. طبعا لان when دي modifies 9. احنا عندنا 3 4 1974. alright. طيب. لكن كنت فاكر بتقول لي على موضوع البوك. طيب اخر حاجه وناخد بريك. اخر حاجه ولا نخلي ده بعد بريك؟ بعد بريك. after the break. after break. Yes. All right, let's do it after the break. This one I know for you, Ali, it's easy. We took it together. Like for the majority, تعرف كام how much? No, the previous one was 61%. This one is 61. اللي هي روستوك دي. Where this one is 51%. 51%. I know that it's repeated. I repeat it intentionally. There are some questions that I have to repeat every single course. There are some questions that I have to repeat every single course. And these are the questions that are very, very absolutely hard. So let's have a break for 10 minutes and come back to start question number 15. Thank you so much. For this type of question, since it's a punctuation question. After all, we have has, having, has, and then without a verb, ud. So this is a punctuation question. It can be a fragment as well. It can be also double verb. It can be run-on. So what I need to do is just read from the capital letter of the blank. And here we go, ud. So I'm starting from here. So I don't care about all that. I'm not reading all this. Yes. So I'm going to read with A. OD has referred to Nollywood. So OD is a subject, right? Has referred to Nollywood is a verb. So we have a subject and a verb, and it could be complete meaning, and that's it. OD has referred to Nollywood. What is Nollywood? Nigeria. So this is not essential. This is a modifier. As Africa's vivid mirror par excellence. What is honors? What does honor here do? It's a double verb. Thank you so much. It's a double verb. All right. So you can't have OD has honors. The same thing. Look at that. 51%. تخيلوا. طبعا this is hard, I know, but 51% is too low. Yes. Yeah, referred. The same question is, can a person refer? Can even a book refer ولا لا؟ Can I refer to someone as something? صح? Can you refer to Nollywood as Africa's? Can you say that ولا لا؟ Ask yourself the same question. Can the subject Udi refer to Nollywood as Africa's? Yes, يبقى refer دي is a verb in the past. خلاص؟ all right. So OD has referred to verb على طول. And of course, so the answer for sure is B. So OD, having referred, I need this verbal. I need this verbal because I can't use A, neither D, because D will be referred برضو verb على طول اللي هو double verb يبقى برضو UD referred. So we're gonna have double verb in A and D. And of course, C is always wrong. You can't separate, and it should be very easy. You can't separate the subject from the verb. No, you can't have such thing, yeah, Raneem. No, because referred to Nollywood, in this case, if I use UD, comma, referred to Nollywood, ده معناها ان UD نفسه هو اللي referred, all right? مش he did the action. No, he was referred to Nollywood by someone. يعني حد أشار Nollywood اللي هي زي هوليوود أو بوليوود عليه. وطبعا illogical. You can't have that. Yes. Yudi is a person. Yes, Yudi is a person. So you can't have such thing. You can't have the Yudi referred to Nollywood as Africa's vivid mirror par excellence. ده معناها ان هو اللي par excellence. طبعا غلط. Anyway, so D is wrong, A is wrong, double verb. C is wrong because we can't also have double verb and we can't have a comma before. D double verb. ما هو D هتبقى كده يا يوسف. UD خلاص remove بقى هي حاجة مش موجودة. UD referred نفس الكلام. UD referred. The only difference between A and D is tense. Referred is past. Has referred is present. Simple is present perfect. Both are verbs. UD subject verb. وبعد كده honors هيبقى نفس المشكلة. Referred و honors هي double mistake كمان لأن هتبقى يعني referred و honors يعني مش دي الفكرة بس هي يعني هتبقى tense shift طبعا referred in the past and honors. So we have double verbs. All right. Why isn't referred verb? هي verb. It is verb and that's why we don't use it. Referred is a verb. UD is a man. خلاص a person. Can he refer? Yes he can. If I have UD has referred يبقى أنا معناها كده إن UD subject و has referred is a verb يبقى وعندي بعدها honors يبقى in this case I have a subject and double verb. Alrighty? A subject and double verb. خلاص؟ لا it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense يا علي. ما ينفعش تقول UD comma referred to Nollywood as vivid mirror par excellence. ده معناها انك بتقول ان UD نفسه is the whole industry. UD اللي هو البني ادم ده هو نوليوود بتاعت نيجيريا. هو هوليوود بتاعت نيجيريا. عارف يعني ايه؟ ها انت كده بتقول ان يودي هو هوليوود بتاع نيجيريا زي بوليوود بتاعت انديا. هوليوود بتاعت انديا هي بوليوود. طبعا ما ينفعش مش كلام من دي. alright طيب no. Africa's vivid mirror par excellence. Why not B? هي B. لا هي B. هي UD having referred هنا بقى UD B comma having referred كده بقى في الحالة دي having referred is participial phrase participle طبعا بس هنا بس the difference between referring و having referred is perfect participle. Perfect participle. Participial phrase يعني modifier. And then after that all phrase there is a comma and then honors. يبقى UD subject honors verb between them is a modifier. يبقى subject modifier verb. Subject modifier verb. Correct. بس that's it. The answer is B. Any question? خلاص. This question I know it's hard لكن برضو should have been eliminated very easily. Yeah, let's move on to question number 16. And I added this question for Malak because Malak asked last week, asked me whether we can have like a preserved phrase like such as or including that is essential to the sentence. Yes, and that's the example I was referring to. Yes, we can have a prepositional phrase like such as or including that is essential to the sentence, and we can't go with, and the sentence can't go without it. And the difference here between A and B, there is no other difference between A and B, but just other than the commas. شايفين? That's it. It's very confusing, I know. لكن first of all, I have to eliminate C and D. صح ولا لا؟ هو C and D are absolutely wrong. I have to eliminate C and D right away. Why? Yes, because after such as, you can never have a comma. After including, you can never have a comma. Thank you so much for those who are revisiting their papers and the notes. هنسأل الأسبوع اللي فات such as, including are just prepositions. You can't separate the preposition from the object. That's it. يبقى C and D خلاص ريح دماغي شيلها من حياتي. يتبقى عندي A and B, and the only difference between A and B is such as poetry is non-essential phrase. Non-essential طبعا two commas. أما هنا essential. طيب يبقى I need to know essential versus non-essential. That's it. Essential versus non-essential. So I need to know whether it's A or B. ما هو لازم واحدة منهم هتكون صح. طيب يبقى I have to read the sentence from the blank. from the capital letter. مش هقرا كل الكلام ده. واقرا وشوف بقى does it make sense if you go with A ولا لا. I walk through slowly, pausing to admire the sculpture stacks of books, the thoughtfully curated sections with titles. بص بقى هنا with titles. I'm not, if I'm gonna go with A, this means that this is not included, صح? If I'm gonna go with A, this means that what comes between the two commas is not there. معنى essentially انا هقراها كده. With titles وبعدين هنط على and the less conventional. Does it make sense? Can I say that? I walk through. No, it doesn't make any sense. The thoughtfully curated sections with title. ما هي with preposition phrase modifying the sections. Which sections? Sections with titles and the less common and the less A sections with titles and the less conventional Theora Dudosa اللي doubtful theory, which is another title. So titles such as Poesia poetry and the less conventional, صح كده؟ And the less conventional Theora dots they parallel. Thank you, Faris. It parallels. It makes sense. في titles such as Poesia اللي هي very well known, maybe, I'm not sure, لكن لما اقول لي and the less conventional, so this one is not very well known, less conventional, we don't know it, Theora Dotsa. So there is a comparison here between two titles such as يبقى هنا an example of a prepositional phrase that is essential to understanding the sentence. And if you read the sentence without the prepositional phrase, it doesn't make any sense to say with titles and the less conventional Theora Dorosa because it's title. So the answer is A. All right. What is after the blank is part of the, yes. Thank you. So you can't separate them. Thank you. All right. It's all about, thank you so much. At least, Mr. If we just added a comma before such as. Mr. What if we just add a comma before such as? ما هي دي المشكلة. If you add a comma before such as with titles, one comma معناها إنك هتقول with titles. The thoughtfully curated sections with titles and all that comes after such as is non-essential. خلاص كأنك أنت حطيت كامة واحدة معناها إن from the comma up to the period it's non-essential. Doesn't make sense to say with titles. يعني إيه with titles? The thoughtfully curated sections with titles. The thoughtfully curated sections with titles. Doesn't make sense. لأن titles such as I'm modifying the titles وبقول عليهم titles such as. So it is essential. Examples are needed, yes. Why is it essential again? Salma, read A, and it doesn't make any sense to say the thoughtfully curated sections with titles and the less conventional title. يبقى أكيد with titles such as Poesia اللي هي في B and the less conventional اللي هي Theora to establish the parallelism. This is the title أهو. This is another title. يبقى you can't put two commas أبدا. This is essential. The percentage is terrible, I believe. No, not bad, but like 72%. It makes sense to eliminate A, no worries. And of course, we said that C and D should have been eliminated right away from the very beginning. Any question? Any question? Yara, all good? Kenzie, all good? Thank you. Let's move on to question number 17. This one is easy, and it was 96%. So I was expecting that. This one, I'm starting from the capital letter of the blank again, because this is a punctuation question. And since I don't have any question in here, it should be a noun clause. So I'm gonna eliminate A and B right away because they include question marks. However, we don't have a question mark. Is what is a noun clause? So, and the noun clause, as we mentioned before, has a subject and a verb, and it's a clause. It is not an interrogative clause, not a question. So we don't have a question, so we don't have A and B. You can't go for A and B. Yes. We can't have two sentence types in the same sentence. Thank you so much, Kinsey. So, however, the fusion is the subject of Latin music and American jazz that Machito innovated while performing in is what has earned him his enduring fame. Is what has earned him. The fusion is what has earned him, and this is طبعا a noun clause acting as a predicate. Lead predicate because it comes after a linking verb. You don't have to memorize these terms, like for sure you study that in classes. All right, the predicate, yes, it is. It is what has earned him his enduring fame, and of course you can't say it is what has enduring fame earned him, because in this case his enduring fame would be earning him the fusion. I don't think that many students have choosing this, because this is 96%. It doesn't make sense to say that the enduring fame has earned him the fusion. No, it is the fusion that has earned him his fame. All right. Yes. So it's a form. Yeah, and for sure, C doesn't make sense, and D is the right answer. And 96%. Any question? Shall I move forward? Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Right. The next one is 70%, and this is all about parallelism. Look at that. 70 معناها for a question like that, 70 is very low. تعالوا نقرا from the capital letter of the blank and find out what we have. What we have is and achieving, achieves, achieving, to achieve. So word verb choice مش كده؟ And also we have verb and achieving is and along with verbal. All right. Don't forget that there is and here. Achieving is verbal without and. To achieve is another verbal. All right. اللي هي infinitive phrase. So this doesn't mean that B is the correct answer. All right. Does it? No, we don't say that. All right. One of the verbals can be the correct answer. It's not 3 versus 1. It's not the odd is always right. تعالوا نشوف. To improve public health outcomes. So this is an infinitive phrase modifying the leaders. Leaders are implementing they are implementing subject and verb. New educational programs that promote healthy eating habits. And of course, many of the students would go for and achieving because they are implementing and achieving. But here is the trick. Here, no, it's not faulty parallelism. Actually, the comma. Yes. Yeah. A is wrong because not a fragment. No, not a fragment. Leaders are implementing subject and verb, and then a comma. So the structure would go like that. The answer يعني اللي هي achieving would go like that. Subject, verb, comma, verbal. عادي خالص. Subject, verb, comma, and then achieving. And when we end the sentence with a participial phrase, verb in ing, preceded by a comma, اللي it modifies the subject. So I'm still talking about the leaders. Yes, I'm still talking about the leaders. Achieving. هم leaders زي ما هم implementing, they are still achieving. So why A is wrong? And because B is wrong. You can't say leaders are implementing, comma, achieves. We have, in this case, double verbs and at the same time subject-verb disagreement. And of course, برضو we can't say to achieve. In order to use to achieve, I know that it can work. I can say that leaders are implementing blah, blah, blah to achieve, which is quite correct. Like after all, we don't use a comma in here. No comma should be, it's not the idea of redundancy. No comma should be used to separate the verb from its adverb. This is an adverb. To achieve هنا, it's an adverb. يعني مثلا, I emigrated or migrated to Australia. مش كده؟ To have a better life. صح? To have a better life. To have a better life, answer the question, why did I migrate? Yes, thank you, Ali. It modifies migrated. I immigrated or migrated to Australia to have a better life. So it answered the question why. So it's an adverb, infinitive phrase acting as an adverb, and I cannot separate it from the verb, because if I separate it, all right, if I separate it, this means that if I put a comma in here, this means that this is non-essential and I migrated to Australia. And it doesn't tell why. But it's important to say why I migrated to Australia, why I study SAT. All right? مش كده؟ بس it's infinitive and it modifies the verb. And in this case, you can't separate the infinitive from the verb. So verb and then infinitive. If this infinitive modifies the verb, you can't separate it by a comma, because it's essential. If you put a comma, it's non-essential. Type. It's not the idea of a fragment. Like when we achieving parallels with implementing. صح? I can say leaders are implementing and achieving. And in this case, I don't have to repeat R again, because R in this case is what we call a common factor, like to go, to eat, to drink. I can just start with to and then go, eat, drink, and without repeating to. I would do the same thing with R. So I don't have to say are implementing, are achieving, no. But the problem is they are implementing. This is the problem with A, and this is very tricky. Look at the percentage, 70%, not easy. Are implementing, comma, and achieving. What is that? If I have two elements, joined by and, no comma is needed. No comma is needed. صح كده؟ يعني if I say banan مثلا and malak. Banan and Malak are visiting me today. So they are visiting me. So I don't have to put a comma before and, because they are just two. They are just two items. All right? No comma between them. I use a comma in a list only when it's more than two. All right? Only when it's more than two. I know it's very tricky, very, very tricky. And that's why I purposely, on purpose, put that, all right, threw it on in front of you, because I know that many would fail it. Are implementing, you can't say comma and achieving. أما إيه الأسهل؟ achieving. مش مسألة إيه الأسهل، إيه صح؟ achieving. In this case, it's a partial phrase modifying the leaders, all right, without the need for repeating or saying and. All right. So when we join two items best to any two items, we don't use a comma before and or but. Let's move back on to the transitions. Some of them are easy, some are hard. Let's go through that. This is one of the hardest, if it's not the hardest, because this is 58%. 58%. Look at that. Usually the transitions shouldn't go as low as this, but it is what it is. And this one is hard. However, it really gets me. It really annoys me when I say that not one, not two, but some of the advanced students are not just doing the right thing, are not following the tips. We always say that two words in the same, yes, thank you so much, Faris. Two words in the same list, in the same transition list, should cancel each other. لكن الاقي طلبه شاطره والمفروض انها داخله تقفل وتختار nevertheless or however. yeah. فهنا معناها thank you Faris. هنا معناها ان it's either indeed or thus. Well, at least ان انت عملت elimination ل2 ف 50% more likely to get it right. Is it indeed or thus? And look at that, 58% answered it right. Let's read it. Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. At least you tried doing something. I know this one is hard and you have to memorize it. We always say that the word indeed and in fact, they emphasize صح and elaborate. بس هما بيعملوش غير كده في الساعات. Yes, thank you, Faris. They emphasize and elaborate. Usually they emphasize with example, they emphasize with evidence. Sometimes they emphasize or elaborate with evidence. تمام. وممكن ان انا بس مجرد ان انا I repeat what I've said، بس مش مسألة just repetition يعني. طيب. لا مش can't be substituted in other words. لا in other words is different. لكن هي it's elaboration, emphasizing the previous sentence. طيب. Because in another question we had in other words we had a couple of choices that didn't cancel each other. طيب anyway, look at that. What in the word thus is a cause and effect relationship, صح? Cause and effect relation. So we are either between the second sentence emphasizes what has been stated in the first sentence, or the second sentence is an effect, صح? The second sentence is an effect of the previous one. ما هو thus العلاقة بتاعت thus بتبقى كده، مش بس مجرد انها cause and effect وخلاص، لا cause and effect respectively، صح؟ هي كده. يعني مثلا I didn't do the homework thus، يعني as a result، مش كده؟ as a result I was punished. مثلا I was punished. This is the cause and this is the effect. It doesn't make the other way around. Thus doesn't make the relation the other way around. خلاص؟ It's not like because I was punished because I didn't do the homework. هنا because starts with the effect and then the cause. صح؟ لكن هنا thus, as a result, consequently, therefore, accordingly, hence. الليسته كلها اللي احنا حافظينها ومعانا كلها بتعمل cause effect. The cause first and then the effect. The cause comes before this and the effect comes after this. That's the problem. That's the problem with this question. ركزوا بقى معايا. طيب. When constructing grain stores or storage silos with reinforced concrete, engineers anticipate there would be cracks. They anticipate ركزي كده يا يارا والشباب اللي معايا. They anticipate that there would be cracks under heavy loads. All right? They're enforcing lattice of steel bars embedded within the concrete. وعشان كده هم عملوا concrete because of the anticipation of the cracks. فعشان كده they're reinforcing lattice عملوا كده حاجات زي lattice عامله كده. حطوها ايه؟ embedded within the concrete. حطوها في المسلح في الخرسانه. الناس اللي هتشتغل ان شاء الله تبقى مهندسه هتبقى عارفه الكلام ده. حطوا في المسلح نفسه في الخرسانه نفسها concrete. حطوا lattice steel bars embedded within the concrete. ليه؟ This is meant to accommodate this inevitability. To accommodate this inevitability. To address يعني. To accommodate this cracks will happen. And that's why they included the lattice of steel within the concrete to accommodate this inevitability اللي هي the crack, to prevent it. Yes. Then thwart it entirely. يعني it cannot prevent it entirely, but it will accommodate. يعني هيحصل اهتزازات، هيحصل cracks، يبقى at least there is some steel يعني supporting the structure. بصوا بقى اللي بعدها بتقول ايه؟ It is only upon cracking that reinforced concrete can actuate the full support of the steel. The crack or the full support of the steel will not be in full impact or full effect unless there is cracking. Actuate, instigate, cause. Yes. What I'm saying is just I'm emphasizing the previous sentence. There is no cause and effect. If you choose C, ده معناها you made the effect cause and the cause effect. You have made, if you choose C, the answer is indeed. The answer is يعني كأني بقول لك على فكرة خد بالك emphasize. خد بالك الستيل ده مش هيشتغل in full activation unless the cracks happen. الستيل ده موجود بس مش عشان يعمل سبورت للقاعده نفسها في البناء الاساسي. امال هو معمول ليه؟ معمول عشان لما الكراك يحصل. لما الكراك يحصل، لما انت تقول لي thus معناها انك خليت الانتسيبيشن cause for the crack. The engineer's anticipation caused the cracks. لا, the cracks will inevitably happen. The cracks are not an effect of the anticipation or the engineer's anticipation. You can't say that. You can't say that the cracks are effect. ما هو احنا اتفقنا ان thus معناها cause to the effect. If you believe that the previous statement اللي هي engineers anticipating the material is the cause, معناها ان مجرد الانتسيبيشن هو اللي حقق الكراكن. لا, الكوز الكراكن بقى هو الايفكت. غلط. The relation is wrong. Because of the cracks, بص بقى انا ممكن اقول كده, because of the cracks the engineers, انا ممكن اقول كده, embedded the steel. I can say that. خلاص. كده الكراكن هيحصل. All right, not because they have anticipated the the crack will happen or will the crack happen. No, ما فيش حاجه اسمها كده. خلاص, ما فيش حاجه اسمها كده. This is wrong. Cause and effect relationship. You have made the cause an effect and the effect cause. You made the cracking an effect of the anticipation or an effect of the reinforced lattice. عشان هم حطوا lattice هيحصل crack. ده غلط تماما. عشان هم حطوا steel هيحصل crack. لا, غلط تماما انك تقول كده. عشان كده we need to understand the relationship. All right, any question regarding that? They detected the cracks and thus they made this and that. That's it. Thank you so much. سهلة. يبقى thinking about it this way, otherwise it's going to be very hard. Nevertheless, eliminates, cancels. However, always طالما هم في this same list, والليست انا كنت بعتها لكم على جروب او على على المودل week 1, وخلاص يتبقى عندي thus ولا indeed. طبعا it's a cause and effect relation. No. Right. Question number 20, which is 62%. All right. Yeah, exactly. You shouldn't miss Canvas. Canvas is harder for the students than it is for the teachers, by the way. Moodle is terribly hard for me as a teacher, but it's very easy and smoothly working for the students. Anyway, I miss it a lot. Anyway, question number 20 is 62%. And let's read it. And again, the idea in the past, usually the questions or the answers of the transitions were always like so. We're always like words. Nowadays, most of the questions are sentences and phrases. All right. So as this is the kind of upgrading they make for the test. It will never be the same. All right. Yeah, hopefully Yahya, inshallah, yani when it's open, we can use it again. Among its thousands of portraits, yeah, Moodle is better. Among its as I told you, Moodle is paid, it's with subscription, guys. I pay thousands of dollars for Moodle. But I can't work without it. I can't work without an LMS to upload the work, the homework, and the homework should be under time pressure. Otherwise, no one will answer. Otherwise, the course is just a joke. Anyway, it doesn't matter. No, it doesn't make that. I tried many things. All right. Among its thousands of portraits of well-known figures from British history, London's National Portrait Gallery includes self-portraits by noteworthy British artists, including one of Leonard Macomb. طيب حلو قوي. ما هو ده جوجل كلاس روم ده فاشل. ما فيش اي عمره ما هيشتغل زي ما احنا عايزين. طيب. The subjects of most NPG portraits are different from more famous than the artist who painted them. So here we have a contrast. Here we have figures in the gallery, self-portraits. And of course, when I say self-portrait, it means that the artist is the same as the subject. مش كده؟ يعني فريدة كالو yeah, drawing herself. مش كده فريدة كالو. Self portrait معناها ان هي she's painting herself. Van Gogh would paint himself. The subject himself is the artist. But how about the second sentence? The second sentence says the subjects of most of NPG portraits. الله، طب ما احنا اصلا في NPG، احنا ما بعدناش، هي NPG بس البي هنا ناقص، هي NPG برضه. I'm talking about the same thing. But the subjects of most NP portraits are different from and more famous than the artists. الله، يعني الحكاية دي بقى is just an outlier, is just an exception. It is not the common. مش كده؟ It is not the common. What is common is that we have different artists from their subjects. And even the subjects are even more famous than the artists. But the example of British artist اللي هو Leonard is an outlier. I can consider that an outlier. So I'm expecting something like a contrast. This doesn't mean that I have to go for the word however. That anomaly, yeah. This doesn't mean that I will eliminate consequently. Furthermore, of course, however واجري. مفيش كلام من ده. It's not just however. We have however along with another sentence, complete sentence. And it may make great difference. Full sentence. I have to read it. تعالوا كده. Consequently, such portraits reinforce. No, if such portraits like those of that of Leonard reinforce the museum's curatorial philosophy, they wouldn't be different. So curatorial manner, the way they curate the museum, the way they organize, and of course, this is complete contradiction. All right. So A is wrong. It's not cause and effect. It is. We are sure that it is a contrast. But furthermore, Macaul's portrait exemplifies. No, Macaul's doesn't exemplify the next sentence because the bias in favor of auto portraiture. Because if it exemplifies the bias, the next sentence should talk about self-portraits. However, the second sentence doesn't talk about self-portrait. It talks about different subjects. So A and B are complete contradiction. And D is wrong because Macaul's portrait is the only one, it's not the only one, the only self-portrait of an artist in the museum, because the column should explain how it is the only self-portrait of an artist in the museum. And actually, the second sentence doesn't say that. The subject of most portraits are different from and more famous than the artist who painted them. So there is no mention of this is the only self-portrait of an artist in the museum, because the second sentence doesn't explain how it's the only. Of course, such portraits are anomalies. Such portraits, the portraits of Leonard is one example. على فكرة, Leonard is one example, well-known figures, all right, is one example. Yeah, sure. Leonard is one example of many, but this is not the norm. The norm is subjects made by different artists, not self-portraits. So, of course, yes, of course, shows contrast as well. Such portraits are anomalies. What is the meaning of anomalies? Like outliers, all right, exceptions, abnormal, not exceptions, outliers, abnormal, exception, any of these. In the context of the museum's collection, the second explains. The second says, the subjects of most of both are different from most from the artists themselves. That's it. Letter YD is wrong again. In order to say that Macaul's is the only self-portrait, this is wrong. ليه؟ بص الباسج أصلا كانت بتقول إيه؟ Among its thousands of portraits of well-known figures from British history, London's national portrait includes self-portraits, self-portraits by noteworthy British artists. يعني self-portraits دي singular or plural يا منى؟ Singular or plural? Self-portraits by noteworthy artists. يلا يا بنتي. اكتبي. طب شاوري لي. Plural. حلو. Letter D بقى بتقول لي no, the only one. Complete contradiction. Letter D بتقول لي Macaul's is the only one. وانا لسه كنت بقول includes self portraits by noteworthy British art. self portrait معناها انا برسم نفسي. Leonard is one of them. فما ينفعش اقول ان Leonard is the only one. All right, so D is wrong. لكن C is the right answer because Leonard is an exception. All right, anomaly. البورتريتس دي مش بس Leonard والself portraits اللي زيه anomalies, not the norm. Letter A for Faris says, as a result, no worries, as a result, such portraits اللي هي ايه such portraits such اللي هي لما اقول such معناها I talk about the portraits I just mentioned in the first sentence. Reinforce the museum's curatorial philosophy. What is the curatorial philosophy? Curator اللي هو the one who arranges the it's not only for museums but for many things like theaters, for anything. So curator معناها أو curatorial philosophy, the way, the process, I guess the thought process, how they arrange, how the philosophy behind it. Do we favor self-portraits or normal portraits? So does the example of Leonard reinforce, support the curatorial philosophy? لا, it's against it. It's against it because the next sentence says Leonard is an exception, but the majority, most subjects are different from their artists. All right. So nothing, yeah, it's complete contradiction. على فكرة A, B, and D, complete contradiction to what the passage says. If I have to read the first part of the text, the second part of the text, establish the relation, and don't forget that we still have another sentence in between them to show the relation or to be used as a bridge between sentence 1 and sentence 3. So we have to read it all, and I can't go for just however. Question number 21. تعال نشوف similarly ولا by contrast ولا ايه. Ancient Athens had a unique form of governing. This one is easy, called direct democracy, that allowed all citizens to gather, speak, and vote personally on government decisions. Citizens of modern countries usually elect representatives to make laws on their behalf, so they are not doing it themselves. So it's not direct democracy. They are doing it differently because populations now are too large for direct democracy to be practical. And that's why, for sure, by contrast, because we have here contrast, I'm looking for any contrast, and this is the only one I have. So for those who are asking, the previous one was 62, and this one is 84. 62, I guess I wrote it. Yes, 62, and this 84. All right. Yeah, contrast for sure. Right. Question number 22. Many poetry anthologies include only a single poem from each poet, but Hyde Edrich, News Poets of Native Nations, includes generous selections from each poet. وطبعا هنا general to specific, so there is no need. Edrich includes multiple poems from Trevino, so it's general to specific. Thank you, Luigi. General to specific. When I say many poetry anthologies, وبعد كده أقوم قايل Edrich includes multiple poems from Trevino, as if I'm saying, for example, يبقى على طول for example. Any question? This one is 84 again. 84 again. طيب. Any question regarding this? It's easy. D. Type. Moving on to question 23. Again, phrase. So I have to read it all. The widespread use of mathematical scoring systems. This one is easy as well. In combat sports reflects a Western influence preference for quantifiable competition. Quantifiable from quantitative, for sure you know it. Something that can be quantified, something that can be counted, something that can be assessed through numbers. Something that can be a 1, 2, 3 number, quantifiable, yes, including numbers. Right. The second one says the scoring system in traditional Muay Thai, which is different story because here we are talking about Western influence, but here it's a different thing. The scoring system in traditional Muay Thai boxing, treats fights as unfolding narratives in which the significance of any given change is inextricable, and if something is inextricable, it can't be separated. Inextricable form, all right? The border arc of the context from the border arc of the contest. The winner being determined not by numerical tally. Tally means counting, so it's not by numerical tally. So we have a contrast. So yeah, of discrete actions, but by overall assessment of. So there is a contrast between the first way of scoring and the second way of scoring. So I'm looking for a contrast. Do you impart to its cultural preference? No. As another example, it's not another example. Constructed with the similar intent, not similar, in a marked contrast. Yes, that's it. A stark contrast in a marked contrast to this approach. يعني مختلف تماما. كأني بقول on the other hand, كأني بقول contrastingly 76%. Alrighty. Any question? So it is the طبعا contrast for sure. So it's just you need to understand. Question number 24. Under drought conditions, soybean plants produce smaller leaves, a common response to water scarcity. So when the water is scarce, when the weather is dry, they produce smaller leaves. All right, to limit that transpirational water loss and helps maintain osmotic balance. That's very common. And logic, sugarcane. So we have two types of plants, soybean and sugarcane. Does sugarcane do the same thing? Subjected to drought stress. So both are subjected to drought, all right, because water scarcity is drought in a different way. Actually does the opposite, experience a marginal elongation. So this is shorter or smaller leaves. However, the sugarcane does elongation, and elongate, I always say it, I don't want to elongate the period or to make it long. All right, so elongation of the leaves. So there is على طول contrast. I'm not going to read the rest. خلاص, I know that there is contrast specifically, and for instance, they should cancel each other. And of course, by contrast is the right one here. It is not moreover. All right. No. Marginal elongation, it's the opposite of smaller leaves. All right. Marginal means little, but still there is elongation. All right. خلاص. يعني we can't say that the leaf will be very long, but it's marginal. Still, we have elongation. I know that marginal means not very big, but it is. And what do you think? يعني, what do you think if I'm gonna eliminate specifically and for instance, what do you think? Is there أصلا يعني the SAT didn't want to يعني make it very, very extremely hard for you to answer. There is no similarly. Is it? Is there similarly in here؟ ما هو معنى انك تقول لي marginal elongation معناها ان كده معناها كأنها smaller leaves. معناها ما اعرفش انت فهمتها ازاي. لكن هل في اصلا answer بتقول لي similarly؟ طب can I say for example او specifically اصلا؟ No, they cancel each other واصلا ما فيش general to specific. طيب can I say moreover when I talk about different species, is it moreover؟ يعني soybeans does something when there is drought. Does it do another thing when there is drought? Another thing just to save the water? لا، ده انا بتكلم على different اصلا، فكان لازم اقول by contrast. But if you had the idea that marginal is not يعني it's very little يعني مش لازم يعني مش لا, marginal means there is some elongation. all right. انا ما قلتش ان marginal معناها little اللي هي no. انا عمري ما قلت ان marginal معناها little اللي هي little و a little. عمري في حياتي ما قلت ان marginal معناها اللي هو the main meaning of little versus a little. اللي هو little is negative, little elongation يعني no elongation. فمعناها ان يعني no elongation حتى برضو مش معناها ان في smaller leaves اصلا. ما انا بقول لك no حتى لو يعني لو انت افترضنا ان marginal معناها no, ما اعرفش انت جبتها منين, لكن حتى لو number one there is no moreover. I'm talking about a different species. Number two, no elongation doesn't mean that they become smaller. برضو معناها يعني الليف دي هتصغر, دي كانت كده ودي كده ماشي. طيب في الدراوت اللي حصل ان الليف دي صغرت شويه. طب وفي الدراوت الليف دي ما صغرتش, فضلت زي ما هي, no elongation. Are they the same? شوجر كان ايه اللي انت يا شباب قعدت تفكر فيه الشوجر؟ طيب. ف there is contrast, all right, where marginal means there is. طيب. For all the we are lucky here because for all the ده ايه ده عصير قصب ولا انت كده ما عادش فيك طاقه خلاص يا عمر؟ ما هو بالمره بقى. علي عازمنا على عصير قصب. طيب شربات. طيب الحمد لله for all the note taking questions. We should not read the notes حتى في الكويشن الاخير. حتى في الكويشن الاخير اللي هو the hardest one with 55 or 52%. Yeah I know لكن you shouldn't have read the notes. تعالوا هوريكم ازاي. طيب هنا مش هنقرا النوتس خالص ليه؟ This one is the previous one was 87% by the way فمش عارف 87 يعني it's good. طيب the next one is 95% no. لما اقول no يبقى no reading. طيب we need to provide an example وطبعا this one is recycled many times. An example of public service that Tiango is responsible for. طبعا Tiango, a government region, provides public services. Public services. What is it? Thank you, Banan. Indirect. ما نعرفش. أنا عايز an example. An example of a public service. No example. What A says, it is just it provides public services. بتعمل. طب ها ما قلتش. Indirect answer. Letter B, the municipality had a population, doesn't out. Tiango is one of municipality, برضه providing public, برضه the same as C, indirect. So the only answer is D. As a municipality, Tiango is responsible for providing water treatment to its residents. That's an example of public service. بتديلهم المية. D is the right answer. No, sorry. Only when you are confused. Like, don't waste your time. A question like that should be answered in no time. Don't confuse yourself. Don't overload your mind. ليه اقعد اقرا كل الكلام ده؟ بس only when you are confronted with 2 or 3 answers or even the 4 choices that can work according to the goal. All right, you can't eliminate 3 choices in this case بس, or you can't understand. You can't even understand what's going on. ففي الحالة دي ارجعي. لكن this is not always the case. طيب ايوه, well there are 2 or more candidates than 1. برضه in this one, how about this? Should I read all the لا يا شباب ما تضيعوش وقتنا. وقتك ثمين. احنا بنتعلم في الكورس ازاي ان انا اخلص in no time. right. ده اللي احنا بنتعلمه. مش بس مجرد ان انا احل الاجابه وصح وخلاص. الفرق ما بين اللي هو لما شرحت لكم thus والكونتراست اللي كانت او indeed ان احنا نشيل however nevertheless وthus بتعمل cause وeffect وشرحتها بالسرعه دي عشان انت نفسك تعمل كده وانت في الامتحان. مفيش وقت انك تقعد تحلل كل كلمه. طيب anyway, once described Acham's artistic process. مفيش اي واحده فيها artistic process غير واحده بس. artistic process معناها how Acham does the art. مش كده؟ process معناها كده how. مش كده؟ تعالوا نشوف. Acham drawings created from feature transparent overlapping image. This is the feature of his drawings. This is the feature of Acham's drawings. مش كده؟ لكن it is not how he does the drawing. This is the drawing features. So features of the drawing. So A is wrong without reading the notes. Acham ماشي, who's drawing northern light prayer features a woman برضو praying has a stereo blindness, which means her eyes don't fully sync to form an image. This is not برضو the way she does the painting. هي عندها مرض والمرض ده بيخليها ما بتعملش syncing مع الإيمج وهي بتشوف فهي مش شايفة. برضو ده ملهاش علاقة. ف B is out. No process. Letter C. Acham, who has stereo blindness, doesn't draw while looking. That's the technique. That's the process. Doesn't draw while looking at her subjects. امال بتعمل ايه؟ relying instead on the accumulation of visual memory. يعني هي بعد ما تشوفه تقعد مع نفسها كده تقعد ترسمه وتفتكر كانت شكله عامل ازاي. That's it. However, I need to go for D as well. Maybe this is the right answer. The Korean-born, New York-based Action Drew, unwritten, depicted in the drawing. There is no process. فبرضه no process in all, in any. So D is wrong without reading the notes. يبقى no reading, no reading. This one is 75%. The next one is even better. 87%. تعالوا نشوف وبرضه مش هنقرا النوتس. ده مش معناها ان I always do not have to read the notes. So sometimes we do. Last week we had some questions where we had to read the notes. 87%. تعالوا نشوف. The student wants to begin a narrative. تعالوا بقى نشيل كل الكلام ده مش هنقراه. To begin a narrative about the sons of Africa, we had a similar question like how to begin a narrative. There should be a hook. You have to talk about the sons of Africa. All right. You need to sense that this is the beginning, not the end. All right. لا. You need to sense there is a beginning, not the end. يعني C and D can be used as conclusion. B is too fragmented. B talks about Yamuna, talks about Carlisle, Adams, and Joggensmill were all formerly enslaved Africans who had gained their freedom. Where is the mention of sons of Africa? Ikiwano da mean Ikiwano da? Very detailed, yes. Very detailed. I need to start. And when you start, and بقول once upon a time there was a man called whatever, and he had some مش عارف كذا. He used to live. This is the way we start a narrative, we start a story. All right? Like in letter B is too detailed, too fragmented. Who is Equiano? Equiano was the founder of the first Black political organization. What is it? Is it the Sons of Africa? I'm not sure. Where is Sons of Africa in B? يبقى A is the right answer. In the late 18th century, yes, I'm setting the scene اهو. I'm setting the time. Setting صح? Time and place. صح كده? In the late 18th century, a group of formerly a group مش تقول لي اسمائهم على طول. A group because this is the first time I talk about them. ماشي سارة wait. This is the first time I talk about them. فبقول ايه not that. ما اقولش that group. لازم اقول a group, a man. There was a man. مش كده؟ A group of formerly enslaved British Africans would بصوا على would become this is the catch. This is the hook. The narrative hook. Would ليه بقى اقول لك هيبقوا بعدين فاكرين the future of the past thank you Kenzie. The future of the past would become the first Black political organization known as the Sons of Africa. فانت تبقى يعني excited to know how they would become the first Black political organization in British history. لان لما اقول لك هيبقوا بعدين كذا وهم اصلا enslaved فلاش فورورد فانت تحس ان انت في anticipation في excitement في hook في time في place مش كده؟ في في title اللي احنا بنتكلم عنهم اللي هو The Sons of Africa. A ticks all the boxes. B doesn't talk about Sons of Africa. B is too fragmented, too detailed, as if it were in the middle. It should be in the middle of the passage. Letters C and D. Oh yeah, that's it. You need to know how what happened to them in order to become the first Black political organization. Good. Like in C and D can be used for conclusion. Can be used as an end to end the narrative. ازاي؟ political change doesn't come easy. كأني بقى بعمل كده زي argument. عايز اقول لك it took years of speech. ده جه في الاخر بقى. Political change that they مثلا that they made, all right, or enacted. It took years of speech, petitions, and more by the groups. That groups. Who is that كلمة that دي أنا قلتها فين قبل كده. I'm starting. أنا ما بقولش Mr. على فكرة I bought the car unless there is a former conversation between you and me, sorry, talking about a car وانك شفتها في المعرض وعجبتك ف later on بتقول لي مستر I bought that car فذا جروب دي اتقالت امتى عشان اقول I'm starting a narrative. Letter C is wrong. It can be in the end. Letter D برضو after years of speeches, petitions and persuading legislators. That group برضو كلمة that group. Who is the group? مين الجروب؟ And where is the mention of the sons of Africa? خدوا بالكم سؤال تافه على فكرة. Shouldn't be that confusing. 87% لكن في good students were confused about it. خلاص. So B is wrong because it mentions names. We don't know. طبعا we don't know we don't know who they are. مين كارلس مين Adams مين John مين Ikiwano جا منين؟ Ikiwano was the co-founder of مين ده؟ Where is the Sons of Africa? The type, the name of the narrative is about the Sons of Africa. Where is it mentioned in B? Where is it in C? Where is it in D? And of course, as I said, C and D can be used as just, yeah. All right. We need something to establish the time, the setting, the hook, all of that. Right. Anyway, want to emphasize how much bigger this one is easy. All of these questions are from June, by the way, 26. So the actual Earth, this is not the sun. This is not the sun. برضه no need. No need اهو. No reading. مش كده؟ All يتحل كله من غير حاجة. The sun is over 100 times bigger than Earth. Yes, that's the question. That's the question. وطبعا letter D برضه doesn't have anything to do with the sun size compared to, and this one is recycled, by the way, is recycled, and 92%. Next is another one with 82%. Bardo, no need to read. This one is easy. 89%. 89. And here to specify how many spacewalks Chari has completed. The only one that has Chari with completion of spacewalks is D. طبعا Chari is among 2 US astronauts who have completed spacewalks, no number. So this is indirect, as I said. So yes, برضه هنا A and B. So the only answer is D, and there is no need to read either. And this one too, no need to read either. The previous one was 90, 89, and this one is, look at that, 55%. 55%. And look at the notes, very, very confusing. Focus on, recycled. Focus on, not repeated exactly, maybe repeated, yes. Like anyway, focus on the goal. All right. This took, no, it shouldn't. Also, look at the goal. The significance of a similarity between two of the kids. The significant, the question is not asking you about, يا عمر, similarity بس. Similarity, any of these choices can work. And in this case, I have to go back to the notes. Like in the significance, not only the similarity, very good. The important, ليه السيميلاريتي اللي بينهم important. لو ما فكرتش في دي يبقى انت هتضطر ترجع للنوتس وتقعد تقرا وتعيش حياتك بقى مع سي تاب وسي كاب وبي باكت وبي بلانت وعيش بقى. لا، لو انت ما فهمتش يبقى سيب السؤال ده للاخر. ما تضيعش وقتك عشان ما تخسرش اسئله تانية كانت اسهل. تعالوا نشوف هل في اي حد غير واحده بس كان فيهم موضوع السيجنيفيكانس ده. يعني احنا مش هنعمل elimination based on whether it's factually incorrect or correct. لا، we will eliminate the choices. احنا جايين هنا نتعلم ازاي نحل. We will eliminate the choices based on the goal بس. CTAB and B plant, these are two kids. تمام. Are both had similarity. DNA yield above 10 and the purity rate, similarity, good. Is there any significance? No significance. بس يبقى out. No significance. Limited answer. Thank you. Type B. Due to their insufficient yield or purity. Due to their insufficient yield or purity talks about two. CTA, B, and B plant were deemed because they were insufficient. They were deemed, and deemed means like considered, they were considered by the researchers to be less effective than this is a significance. Type. Is that everything? No. We have similarity. How similar? They both are insufficient. طب دي similarity similarity في الفشل. عادي. Both are insufficient. مش انت لو عندك عيلين مثلا عندهم مرض ولا حاجه او اي حاجه يعني مش هم سيميلر كده. نفس المرض مش كده، هما الاثنين ساقطين، similar اهو، يبقى في similarity. طيب what is the significance of that similarity؟ ان هما they were considered to be less effective than BPACT. I haven't read the notes. I don't know anything about BPACT or anything. لكن فعلا there is significance and there is similarity. So B is a good candidate. How about C? With the ideal purity rating being 1.8, CTA, B, X, and P were equal in purity. That's برضو similarity. But no significance. هما بس similar. لكن السيميلاريتي دي البيوريتي ريت دي خلتهم ايه؟ عملت فيهم حاجه ما استفدناش منهم في حاجه، يبقى برضو C is wrong. Letter D compared to CTA bit which had the DNA yield of كذا. هنا comparison لكن both B packs and B plant had insufficient yields. ماشي similarity. B plant in particular was ineffective due to its low yield. This is not a significance of similarity. No significance of similarity. لأن هنا خلاها particular دي معناها إيه؟ in particular on its own was ineffective. طب والتانية ممكن تبقى effective، ما أعرفش، يبقى هنا no significance، يبقى letter D is also wrong. وعلى فكرة بقى يعني كلهم factually incorrect، كلهم يعني A و C و D factually incorrect أصلا، لكن الفكرة مش بتاعتي إن أنا أقعد أشوف هم factually correct or incorrect. هنا الفكرة عندي إن أنا do I have two choices or three choices that cover the two elements of the claim of the goal or not? No, I have just one. أنا ما عنديش غير B، هي الوحيدة اللي فيها similarity والوحيدة اللي فيها significance، يبقى the answer is definitely B. بس ما تفكرش، ما تقعدش بقى ترجع وتشوف. لو عايز بقى ترجع ونرجع مع بعض ونشوف ده غلط طبعا لان it's not above 10. This is 1.2 متهيألي اللي هي الكيتس هنا above دي كانت مش above 10 ولا حاجه، دي كانت 1.2. This is wrong according to the notes. برضه letter C with the ideal purity being 1.8 اللي هي letter C they were equal in purity according to كذا. لا طبعا this one is 2.2 وده 1.6 فطبعا they are not equal، فطبعا برضو factually incorrect يبقى wrong according to the notes. وبرضو ال CTB had a yield of كذا 2.5، لا طبعا ده الباكت ده لوحده ده هو ده اصلا 157 and that's why it's more effective. وده 12.5 they are not the same. This is sufficient برضو wrong according to the notes. لكن كل الكلام ده كان هيضيع وقتك. كل اللي انا عايزه significance and similarity and the significance of that similarity. So B is the correct answer. خلاص, this is how we should tackle a question like so, unless we are بقى يعني confronting two choices or three that cover the goal, and in this case only should you go back to the notes. Thank you so much. We finished like 10 minutes earlier than usual. Alhamdulillah. Next time, inshallah, gonna be much يعني alhamdulillah earlier. Hopefully you do your part. Hopefully you study the notes. Hopefully you revisit them every now and then. Learn from mistakes. I don't want to see someone getting like 9. في ناس دخلت تحل أي كلام. في ناس بتدخل تحل من غير ما تفكر. يا شباب ده مستقبلك. Alright؟ لو أنت it's not interested in the SAT يعني ليه دخلته؟ لو أنت مش حياتك إنك هتدخل تعمل فيه حاجة، أنا دخلته ليه؟ ما هو أصل مش حاجة شرفية، أنا داخل امتحان ساعة وأروح ألعب. مفيش كلام من ده. يا إما تذاكر وتلتزم يا إما ما كانش له لازم أصلا إنك تدخل. ف take it seriously and please always learn from mistakes, and of course you're going to develop as many of the other students alhamdulillah have, so why can't you can do it as well. Someone is asking Mr. would prefer to do until the trial. Answer all the previous papers, all the past papers, all the past tests. وطبعا الناس كتبوا على الجروب بلوكي ولا بلو بوكي مش عارف حبة حاجات كده اسماء انا مش فاكرها، لكن yes, answer these tests. I know that there are mistakes. However, this is our job to answer these tests and correct the mistakes. alright. انا بشوف ان في mistakes في الاجابات، فبقى بختار الاجابات اللي كانت عملت مشاكل او الاسئله اللي عملت مشاكل للناس وخلت الناس تحلها غلط، وبجيبها اوريدي معانا، فما تقلقوش ان انت تحل وتغلط وبعد كده احنا نحلها مع بعض. Thank you so much. I'm just sticking around with Kinsey and Banan because they have questions. See you tomorrow. Don't forget to answer the homework. Um, yeah. We know. Yes, Ali. Yeah, just let Ali know exactly what it's called, like blue bookie. مش عارف أسماء كده غريبة كل شوية تطلع. I can't memorize them. So inshallah, see you tomorrow. Thank you so much, guys, for attention today. And yeah, don't forget to submit your homework before the deadline tomorrow, 12. Thank you.